register for our blog, and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. Today is Thursday, May 21st, 2020. Thanks so much for joining me. I have two interviews today. I'll be speaking with Christian Smalls of Shut Down Amazon, or Shut Amazon Down. And I'm also speaking with Daniel Stone, who is an organizer who suffered a similar fate as Christian. If you recall, Christian Smalls was fired by Amazon because of the organizing that he did in order to get personal protective gear for the workers and to do whatever was necessary to help the workers not die from COVID-19. Amazon subsequently fired him. Similarly, Daniel Stone, who was working at Dollar General in the corporate offices, spoke out about what was happening to the people on the front line, and he was fired as well. So I had a chance to speak with both of them today. And so I will bring you both of those interviews in the public episode and make sure that you get a chance to hear what people are doing around the country, because workers are fighting back. They are fighting back. What stood out to me about both interviews that I spoke to them separately, and it's the same thing that's happening over and over and over again, right? Their stories are so similar, and that's because in both circumstances you have corporations who use middle management, and they use their hierarchical structure to keep workers making the smallest amount possible to ensure shareholders' value. Period. That's the core of it. And because there's this desperate, this insatiable desire to keep ever increasing profits, we see that corporations, no matter how much they spend, they would rather spend billions of dollars in PR than they would to spend $1 billion and $1 on helping workers. If it costs 1 penny more to help workers than it would to run a PR campaign or to allow so many people die, and then they'll just handle the lawsuits when they come. Because you got to think about it. Listen, like, most people will settle on lawsuits. You know, if you get a wrongful death, a lawsuit, and you don't get a really good lawyer who's money hungry himself or herself, then, you know, that company can come in with $100,000 check and you might be happy. Do that 10 times, you got $1 million versus spending $50 million on providing PPE for the entire team. See what I'm talking about? These are the financial decisions that they make on a regular basis, and we have been fooled into thinking, because PR is the propaganda of the oligarchs, right? We have been fooled into thinking that these companies have some type of morality, or that we can't imagine them operating in this nefarious, in this insidious of a manner. But as you listen to these interviews, you realize that is far from the case. That these companies will do anything for the dollar, even if that means sitting back and watching their employees die. All right, let's jump right into these interviews. And just as a kind of a housekeeping, I want to speak to more organizers. If you know anyone who is involved in some strikes, organizing labor on behalf of workers, let me know, and I want them on the show. First up, Christian Smalls of Shut Down Amazon. Joining me now is Christian Smalls of Shut Down Amazon. This brother has made a significant impact around the country with his activism, labor activism, and I'm excited to have him on the show as we continue to highlight and feature people who are out here doing the damn work. Christian, thanks so much for joining me, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So I know everybody by now, I know my audience knows your story because I've covered it quite a bit, and it's been everywhere. But if you could just kind of give us like the elevator pitch, the 30 seconds version of what happened and where you are now.
Absolutely. For those who don't know, a former Amazon employee. Been with the company since 2015. Opened up three major buildings for them: New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. New York, Staten Island was my last location. Back in beginning of this pandemic, early March, I started to raise health and safety concerns at my warehouse, going through the proper channels, through the local HR. After not getting a response that I wanted, I sent out emails to the CDC, the health department, the governor's office, the mayor's office, even the media as well. Couldn't get any response that I
Mm,
needed, so I had to take further action. Mobilized a walkout on March 30th that resulted into my termination two
mm.
hours later.
And what's hilarious, not in a funny way, but in a ironic way, is that they try to say the reason they fired you was because you didn't observe social distancing guidelines. Is that right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's what they're claiming.
I mean, like, so, I mean, tell me what's going on now. I mean, we cover pretty extensively how, in my opinion, how unnecessarily evil Amazon is. It's because it's not like people don't want to support Amazon because they got pretty good services, but everything that costs, like the cost is so much higher than what we pay online, right? We might be paying $9.99 for something, but the hidden cost is how they treat workers. The hidden cost is
Right.
how stressed out workers were even before the pandemic, and now the hidden cost includes the fact that they aren't providing PPE. Is that still the situation? Are they not? Are we still have employees at Amazon who don't have PPE?
In certain locations, yeah, not every location received all the PPE. Not all the locations. You talk about 200 plus buildings nationwide. They're not doing what they're claiming they're doing at all these sites.
Mm,
These sites are managed by management that are trying to adjust to the same thing that the country's trying to adjust to, how to handle this situation. Just because they roll it out to the media and these PR videos that they do doesn't mean that it's actually the reality of the situation. And there's certain buildings out there that's still not implementing certain things. They just don't have the capacity or the manpower to do it. And as a result, people are still getting sick.
mm.
People have died, passed away,
Wow.
and they're still unprotected.
So here's my working theory, and I know you may, to whatever extent you have insight into this. To me, I feel like the Amazon higher ups have just done a calculation. I mean, because why on earth will they not protect their labor force if they didn't do the math? And the math is telling them that maybe a certain percentage of the people die, and maybe they get a couple of lawsuits here and there, but it would cost them more money if they actually took care of their employees. Like that's my thinking, but what actual justification do they have for not doing the baseline providing of PPE to keep their workers healthy?
Well, we got to think about this. Jeff Bezos don't profit $30 billion without the expense of human lives during this time, and that's exactly what he did. They put profits above people. They didn't have no plan going into this,
Mm,
and they're being reactive instead of proactive. And we're only meeting the demands of their pockets. They're not meeting the demands of their employees or their customers. We're all at risk, especially the employees at the locations. Um, we weren't protected in the beginning. We raised concerns. Some of us were retaliated on, like myself, was
hmm
terminated for that. And now, as a result, they're getting some bad PR. They started to make adjustments, but now they claim they're spending $4 billion the next quarter on health and safety. But what about the people that died and passed away? What
Right,
do you say to these families?
right.
So you can't replace. There's no price on human life. You can't replace them, and they should be held accountable for that.
Right, right. And in the process of you speaking out and stepping up, you lost your job. How are you doing materially? Because I know you had to GoFundMe, and I hope it's still going. But you took a hit on this financially.
Absolutely. They didn't care about my life. They didn't care about my health, my safety, my well being, how I'm going to feed myself, my family, my children. It definitely was a whirlwind in the beginning. My life changed in one day. I put my 5 year, 10 year on the line, and it cost me. But I have no regrets about it now.
Right.
I embraced it, and now I'm full blown employed with this activism that I'm doing. I'm down here as we speak in Atlanta, Georgia, doing some activism and organizing work,
Right. Right.
speaking to local employees. So I'm more empowered and motivated than anything right now. So, you know,
Dope.
one door closed, another door open.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tell us about the work you're doing here in Atlanta.
Well, like I said, I'm speaking to local employees. Some of my former colleagues that I work with up top in Connecticut, they transferred down here and opened up these buildings when they opened up 2 years ago.
Hmm.
So I'm just kind of like, picking their brains on what's going on in their locations, talking to some of the local employees, and possibly talking to some local media as well.
So you down here organizing on behalf of labor, man. That is awesome. What else is going, like, what's the next move? Because Amazon
Mhm.
is I guess Amazon is just one, right? Like, I by now I know you see how big the problem really is, like how endemic it really is across the country, corporation after
Mhm.
corporation. Tell me about the other movements that you've joined with, other people that you have affiliations with, and the broader movement.
Absolutely. So my first action was well, actually not my first one, but one of the many actions I've done was the May 1st uh, nationwide walkout, which included Whole Foods, Target, Walmart, Instacart, FedEx as well.
Yeah.
Um, I orchestrated that whole walkout, and we plan to do it again. We formed an alliance, so we have another one coming up. On Juneteenth. We plan on doing the same
Word.
thing, rinse and repeat. We're going. I think some people know it as Freedom Day.
Yeah.
We're going to try to mobilize that again and do another protest in front of these locations. Expand our operation. What I got going on is I'm actually launching my own organization in a couple of weeks called TCOEW, which stands for the Congress of Essential Workers.
Huh.
It's going to be a nationwide organization, rank and file committee, employee driven, to basically organize with a union like structure the workforce of Amazon. And hopefully we're able to accomplish that. Other major corporations will fall in line too.
Right, right. I love that. The Congress of Essential Workers. I think that's going to be some critical work, and absolutely anything we can do to support that. Tell us more about what you need from the average person who may be sitting at home. They're not an essential worker. They're just sitting at home ordering from Amazon. What do you need from those people?
Well, we're part of the communities, the workers, the working class people. So I say to consumers, boycott these companies until they take care of their employees. We are part of the communities, not the one percenters, not the CEOs, not the billionaires, not these higher ups. They're home in their $1 million mansions away from these communities that are getting sick, which is the urban areas, the black and brown communities. We make up 80% of their workforce. So until we're protected, don't support these corporations.
Mm.
Go to your local mom and pop and go to your local grocery stores, but don't support these major corporations. Don't support Amazon until they take care of their employees.
Yeah.
We are a part of the communities.
Yeah. If you got time for like an abstract question. I want to
Sure,
know
absolutely.
what has surprised you in this process. Have you been shocked? Like, did you find any surprises in terms of workers not joining on with you? What has shocked you the most about this process?
Um, I'm not surprised by the workers not joining on because everybody needs their job, and it's understandable that I'm not going to get people to walk out in the middle of a pandemic or boycott or strike. I understand what people are going through.
Yeah.
I understand just by working with them on a day-to-day basis, knowing what the type of people that we're dealing with here. But they do support me. I'm just asking for support. The biggest surprise is probably the simple fact that Amazon has been real rebellious
Mm.
and just misleading. They're still retaliating against employees that's speaking out about health and safety, and then they're trying to spin it as if we're being insubordinate. It's just ridiculous to me. That's the biggest surprise, and the whole smear campaign that they tried to run on me,
Yeah.
that was really the biggest surprise. Other than that, I'm not surprised about what employees do. I know that there's a lot of employees out there that support me, but still have to go to work. And I'm fighting for them and the
Right.
voiceless. I'm fighting for them. I'm going to continue to do that.
Nah, that's love, man. So much respect for that. And the fact that these companies are doing this in broad daylight, and it feels like they have the ability to do it without any any repercussions. Do you what do you hope for? Like what's the next thing that could happen that you would say, okay, we did that, we accomplished something. What is that thing, and then how can we help with that?
Well, I believe that somebody definitely needs to be held accountable. We all know who that person is,
Hmm.
and I believe that unfortunately, the simple fact that people have died, and we raised concerns earlier to prevent that,
Yeah.
that turns into wrongful death. And these families that have lost loved ones from just going to work, they need to seek justice. They need to come out to the public, and I hope they do. And I hope they seek legal counsel, because somebody needs to be held accountable. This is wrongful death when people are going to work.
Yeah.
That could have been prevented. It could have been prevented, and it
Right.
wasn't.
Is there do you have any contact with those families? Or is anyone organizing them, providing resources for attorneys? Because Amazon would jump in there real quick with a decent sized check that will most workers will be willing to take, because you're hurting. But the reality is that at this point, with the right legal counsel, they could bring some pain to Amazon for these wrongful deaths.
Yeah, I mean, well, I haven't been in contact with them. There was I caught wind that a family, I believe, protested in front of my building from one of the members that had died.
Mm.
At my former facility, they protested. They did a caravan the other day. I did reach out to them publicly, but I haven't got a response yet. But I'm hoping that we'll find some way to connect. When I go back to New York, I'm definitely still seeking to talk to these families
Yeah.
and see how I can help them with my platform as well.
Awesome. I am excited about the Congress of Essential Workers. Definitely keep us posted on that. Christian, how can everyone get up with you?
Sure. Shut_down Amazon on Twitter. Chris.Smalls_ on Instagram. Please reach out, sign the petition that we have going around.
That's right.
Amazon is on track to cancel the hero pay, the $2 hero pay, on June 1st. Employees are losing their job because they lost out on the unlimited UPT that ended on April 30th. The petition that I got going around now is to support that and extend that unlimited UPT, and also help people with financially by keeping that $2 pay permanently. So
That's what's up.
please support us.
Absolutely. And I'll be sure to share the link to that petition on today's episode. Christian, thanks so much for your time. I know you're a busy man. Appreciate it, and solidarity.
Absolutely. Anytime. Solidarity. Stay safe.
The link to the petition that Christian is talking about, permanent $2 pay wage increase and UPT, unpaid time off, extension until August 15th. You can find it at change.org, and just Google change.org and Chris Smalls, and you will come right to it. All right, let's take 5. Let's have a little break here so I can thank all of the newest patrons, and then we'll be back with the second interview.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Here we go. At this point in every episode, we like to take a minute to thank each and every one of our newest patrons, without whom this show is not possible. Very special welcome and thank you to Aaron Johnson White. Thank you for becoming a patron. To E1T1 YouTube It. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Kirk Coolwald, thank you for becoming a patron. Bounce. Lee Clow, thank you for becoming a patron. Stephen Crockett, thank you for becoming a patron. Aquita Hines, thank you so much for becoming a patron. Julia Deutsch, thank you so much for becoming a patron. And very special thank you to every single patron who has increased their pledge. Everybody just pop your head. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get uncut, unfiltered, unedited interviews, twice the content, and none of the commercial advertisements that you're going to hear right here.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at www.thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Joining me now is Daniel Stone. He is a labor activist, former Dollar General sales employee in the corporate office who lost his job standing up for workers during this pandemic. Daniel, thank you so much, first and foremost, for the work that you're doing, that you did, and thanks so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on again. And I really appreciate outlets like you who give a voice to people who are willing to make that sacrifice for workers. So thank you for having me on.
One thing it's my pleasure because I think we have the responsibility as independent media to amplify these voices, because if the mainstream media had its way, the only protest that you would, quote unquote protest, that you would hear about would be the people demanding to open back up so that they can go get haircuts. But you're not hearing a lot about all of the labor strikes that are happening around the country, and you all are striking for some basic needs, and there's like full-blown retaliation. Tell the audience a little bit about what happened to you.
Yeah, I think that especially the first part is huge. I have taken my story and my coworker's story to some of the largest media outlets, and they are in no way interested, frankly, of hearing about what workers are experiencing. It's all about, well, how has the company responded to you? And it's like, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about people who can't feed their children right now.
Right.
But for me, yeah, it was a very interesting experience. I think in early March, I started sending emails to senior executives, just asking them for basic paid sick leave. That's how it started, was asking about, the CEO put out a response that was like, during this time, you guys are heroes and all the other bullshit. And, that they don't really believe. And I think just from there, I kept hearing more stories and more experiences when I would go into Dollar General stores and see what was actually happening on the front lines with my coworkers. And with respect to, corporates getting tens of thousands of dollars in bonuses in March. And I'm going up to people in these stores who are working and saying, we're not getting any protection. I'm getting a temporary $1 bonus. That's taxed. It's like, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
So I think, I've always been an advocate for workers. My mother was a small business owner, and my father is a counselor to underprivileged youth back in Kentucky. And I think it's always been ingrained in me just to support my fellow worker. And so let me
So I want to make sure the audience kind of gets a bigger picture. Are you at liberty to name the company? Is there any like pending litigation or anything? Can you speak out about the company and precisely what happened? If my memory serves me correctly, it is they did not provide you mentioned sick leave or any type of personal protective gear, and basically just left the employees out there to fight this pandemic while making the company profits. Is that kind of the gist of it? Break it down for us.
That's exactly right. I am at liberty to speak about this as much as I want. They tried to shut me up, and they offered me $15,000 to be quiet on this firing forever, but we did not take it.
And they are
Dollar General offered me that amount of money, and we do have a pending a charge through the National Labor Relations Board.
Good.
Basically saying that we engaged in our right to unionize, and I was wrongfully terminated for that.
Yeah.
So we're waiting to hear back on that. That'll happen around June 2nd. But yeah, I have my full rights, and I did then, and I'm going to speak out about it.
And what's amazing is that we see a full blown crackdown on labor, on unions, we see these corporations having so much more leeway than they had previous. And I think obviously because of the way America is going towards anti-labor sentiments, both in the media as well as our political structures. Later on, we'll be speaking with Christian Smalls, and he experienced some of the same thing, where simply standing up for people's right to live, like their right to work without contracting this virus, led to terminations. What is your general thought about where we are with the labor movement as compared to how much power these corporations have?
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating question, especially for going forward, because you're right. It's like you say, it's almost like the word union in some circles is a dirty word now.
Yeah.
And it's very strange because, back in the 50s and 60s, people would be like, damn right, I work for the UAW.
Right.
I support my whole family on one union wage. And
Right.
I worked at the GM plant up in Bowling Green where they build the Corvette. And, they built a pretty solid car off union wages. And it's like, it can still be done. But you're right. I think a lot of these companies see their labor not as how maybe you and I see it, as a dignified route to work and live in this country. Being a part of the working class is a good thing.
Right.
I see it as. Whereas these companies see people as just replaceable robots on a line that they couldn't care less about you.
Right.
I think the largest part for me, I've always known it, but to experience it firsthand during a pandemic where people are going into stores and, like I mentioned, like I know stories of people who can't feed their children or couldn't get any hours. And all the while I know that the people that I work alongside and higher up directors are getting tens of thousands of bonuses, millions in salary. They're working from home on their computer watching Netflix at 2 PM when these people are putting their lives on the line and for the sake of a t-shirt mask. It's like a little mask made of t-shirt material.
Right.
It didn't jive with my morality, and the company didn't like, I guess, people like me asking about those ineffective pursuits.
So here's the thing. Like here's something that I want to explore with you, because you sound like you have more of an inside track into the thinking, and obviously you have very direct knowledge of how these corporations behave, because you have been in your own way victimized by this. You lost your income. And I want to talk about that specifically in a minute, but help us with this idea of benevolent corporations where, because they have millions of dollars and billions of dollars to spend in PR, people think these corporations are actually good entities. Like, most people have a hard time thinking that these bastards are really sitting around counting up the cost of how much it would take to take care of their employees versus how much it would cost them if a couple of them sued them. Like, tell me about their kind of moral judgment that you see at that level.
The benevolent company does not exist. I just want people to understand that. These corporations exist to make money at any cost to the environment, to you and your family, to infrastructure to this country. We as a society now have to realize that they're not going to do any of this out of the goodness of their heart.
Right.
When they're putting out all of these little, I don't know if I can curse, but these bullshit.
Yeah, no,
PR,
you're fine.
cool. These bullshit PR things of cute little videos with piano music calling everyone heroes. That is because they think that they can soothe the consumer into thinking that they are doing enough for workers.
Right. Exactly.
It's not that Dollar General sees people as heroes and is thus paying them adequately. I mean, you got other companies who are taking away their pay because they just think that it's over.
Right.
They think the pandemic's over. So I think that we have to have a fundamental understanding that maybe the way you treat your family with patience and kindness and everything else, you cannot apply that to a company. They don't have that morality.
Right.
I remember specifically when minimum wage increases were going into Arkansas and other states, my job was to give sales projections for stores. It was literally just like, oh, great, our returns are going to be lower now. And it's like, that means people in these stores are getting more food for their family, maybe to be able to afford ramen, whereas people can't do that now, and just have a more comfortable life. So if there is any takeaway from this, it would be, to your listeners and others who find this, do not apply your morality to companies because they do not share it.
Do not apply your morality to companies because they do not share it. The rest of the interview is available immediately after the music. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show to get the rest of the conversation, as well as some of my own commentary. Thanks so much for being a beautiful audience. I will see you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.